January 4th is now in session. Would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brinkman?
Here.
Councilmember Cernanik?
Present.
Councilmember Cole? Here. Councilmember Stallman?
Here.
Councilmember Taylor?
Present.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Here. Would you rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? And I believe the Scouts are going to lead us off in the pledge. The flag is behind it. Wait. Hang on.
Pledge allegiance to the wall.
Yeah.
Much better.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, then the agenda is approved as submitted. Minutes for the regular meeting of December 21st. Changes, updates, corrections? In that case, the minutes are approved as submitted. Mr. City Manager, new employees.
Yes, sir. I have a number of employees to introduce to you. Some of them I've had a chance to meet, and some of them I haven't. When I call your name, if you'd stand, please, and I'll just introduce you. Mark Sines. Mark, are you here? Okay, Mark's a new street utility worker. Says he recently returned to you're a native Coloradoan, and he says from much warmer temperatures in Las Vegas. So I don't know if he got out there and lost money and needed to come back or whatever. But Mark's coming back as a street utility worker. And Adam Souter. Adam, okay. Adam's, again, a street utility worker, so these are two people joining Charlie's team in public services. Adam's originally from Ohio, has lots of experience in paving and asphalt, and looking forward to being a member of the Littleton team and working on our streets. Then I have some firefighters, Garrett Horsfall. Garrett, if you'll stand. Garrett's originally from Seattle, Washington. He's married with a daughter who's there with, I thought she was an intern when I thought, you know, with the intense recruiting that we have in the fire service, we're kind of starting a little early these days. Garrett was a reserve with Arvada, for 2.5 years, and then worked for Lake Dillon Fire Rescue, and he's coming down now to join Littleton Fire Service. Dan, you want to introduce your daughter?
This is Serenity Ray Horsfall.
Okay, and so Serenity's there to keep her dad under control. Dan Jenkinson, Dan, if you'll stand. Dan was actually born in Copenhagen, Denmark, lived there until he was 15. He's married. He has experience both career and volunteer service, and excited about coming with Littleton Fire. He enjoys spending time with family and friends, skiing, biking, camping, and riding his motorcycle with a helmet, I hope. Okay. Steve Manning. Steve's, again, a new firefighter. He grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, so a couple of Ohio guys here. You guys, is Ohio State playing tonight?
They are.
All right.
They're winning.
Okay. All right. Steve's been living in Colorado for 5 years. Prior to coming with us, he was 2 years with the Vail Fire Department. And so coming down from the mountains to join us. And Justin Sinnott. Justin and his wife grew up in the Littleton area, and he previously worked for Union Colony Fire Rescue, which is in Greeley, if you know the northern part of the state. So he and his wife are coming back to Littleton, which is really home for him, and he enjoys also time outdoors, snowboarding and camping. And then lastly, Kirk Ackland. Kirk, if you'll stand. Kirk has been actually working part-time for us under contract in information services, and now he's converting as part of the 2011 budget. He'll be on a permanent part-timer, and so he's been doing a lot of good work for us with the IS, and you know there's a lot of work to do in that department. So happy to introduce these new city employees to you, and welcome to the Littleton family.
Yeah, welcome to Littleton. We hope you enjoy your employment here, and thank you for coming down so that we could see you, and you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. But thanks for coming down. Next, we have a guest citizen, and Deb Brinkman is going to read that.
This evening, the Littleton City Council is pleased to recognize Scoutmaster Rocky Williams, the members of Boy Scout Troop 36, and several parent volunteers who built an important trail connection and earned a conservation badge for their tremendous effort in South Platte Park. The Beaver Pond Trail is a small footpath off the East Trail south of the Mineral Avenue underpass. It's a leisurely walk through wetlands to a pond and a bridge. Once upon a time, the trail made a continuous loop, but the beaver expansion of the wetlands flooded the area and the trail was closed. South Platte Park staff gave much thought towards program use and environmental impacts, considering whether this trail should be reopened as a loop and reconnect with the East Trail. Minimizing impacts to the wetlands and maintaining great horned owl activity levels was of the highest priority. South Platte Park volunteer and bird expert Eleanor Pickering mapped the area used by great horned owls and designed a trail route that avoided travel through these areas. In September, members of Troop 36 completed the second half of the new trail, a total of 430 feet. Because of the hard work of these great volunteers, the bridge to nowhere is now the bridge to somewhere. The trail highlights the large variety of habitat found in South Platte Park, with grassland, shrubland, wetland, and a river ecosystem that skirts along the owl territory. Thanks to the work of these volunteers, it's an easy walk for any ability level, and it's a great loop for families with small children. And we do have a video or a PowerPoint that will illustrate some of what the troops did out there. There's actually another troop that also participated in this, and they were unable to be here this evening, so they're going to join us in February. The location of this is just directly off of the Mineral Bridge as you would come down from the Nature Center and go south. It's east of the river. And I stumbled across it years ago when I was walking out there, and I took the little path and kept going and walking, and dead end. And you don't often find dead ends, and I thought, oh, I went into one of those wildlife areas I'm not supposed to be at. But there was a structure built, kind of a deck that apparently was a kind of a bird watching area or something. So I thought that at some point this used to be used, and then last fall I had heard that they had, I think I read it in the South Platte Park newsletter, that loop had been finished, and so I took another walk out there and was just absolutely awed. And it is so natural, and it doesn't even look like they came in and did anything. They did such a good job. I couldn't see anything trampled. There's just a nice, subtle wood crusher trail in there, and they built a beautiful bridge, and there was plenty of bird activity and everything else going on. So you guys did an incredible job in terms of very, very low impact and very high impact for visitors. So we'll take a look at this, and then I'll read your names, and when your name is read after the show, after the PowerPoint. Not really. And then you can come down, and the mayor has something for you.
It's a great replica of Mount Rushmore you guys built up there.
I think there might be a mistake with one of those pictures because in one of those it looked like Scout leader Williams was actually doing something. Good job, Rocky.
Okay, I'll call the names of the scouts. Jamie Ballard. Okay. Devin Nash. Peter McCall. Kyle McCall. Grant Bole. Ben Bole.
Take a picture.
Yeah, line up along here and we'll take your picture. Parker Bryant. Jimmy Roberts. Jacob Jones. Adam Ernest. Sean Zuzi. Zuzai. Thank you. Stephen Williams. Adult Scouters, Ron Bole, Rocky Williams, Gene Bryant, and Jim Ballard. Did I miss anyone? Okay.
Deb, do you want to get down with them, take your picture?
I didn't do anything.
You guys might want to double up a little bit because Cindy will ask you to
Squish in.
Or step up on the step.
Do two. Yeah, you guys can step up and then form two rows.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. And while people are walking back to their seats, I'd like to call out Cecily Mew, who I understand is leaving us and going to sunny, earthquake-prone California.
I am, and if I may say a few words, I really want to thank everybody for allowing me to serve in Littleton and at South Platte Park. It's really been a pleasure for me. And looking at the slideshow tonight and seeing all the scouts here, it really, truly made me all teary-eyed to see the work that you've all committed to the community and have contributed. I really, truly believe in public service and doing good for the community and doing my part for the environment. And I really thank you all for giving me that opportunity. My last day will be on January 28th. And I'll be going to Northern California to the city of Nevada City and Grass Valley, serving with the South Yuba River Citizens League, continuing with watershed coordination and river restoration for the old gold mining rivers. So, but I really thank you, everyone, for giving me such a great time here and letting me be in service.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be sorry to see you go. And you guys that were up here when you were lining up, you probably saw that we have a screen down here that shows the same thing that's up there. So sometimes people don't know that, and it looks like some people are ignoring it, but they really aren't. All right. Marcellus Turner?
Mr. Mayor, you might tell them they're welcome to stay, but they can go if they want.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay for the entire exciting meeting, but you're also welcome to go if you need to. We understand.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
He's not coming. I brought the email.
That person it notified us that he would not be here tonight, Mayor. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So we don't have the scheduled public appearance?
No, sir. I
Okay.
think you should just go straight to
All right,
unscheduled.
unscheduled.
Yes, sir.
All right, then that does bring us to a time when anybody can come down and express an opinion or ask a question. We ask you to limit yourself to approximately 4 minutes and state your name and address, please.
Only 4 minutes?
Approximately.
Mayor and members of council, my name is Tom Ashburn. I've been here many times before. I think all of you know me. Formerly of Xcel Energy. I recently retired and wanted to come by tonight and introduce my replacement that's going to be your representative at Xcel. This is Tom Henley. And I just want to say, after 15 years of working with the city, appreciate the support that you guys have given us, the company, and hopefully we did a good job the last few years. You're in real good hands with Tom. He's a really good guy, and I'd like him to just say a couple quick words. And again, thanks very much.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it, Tom.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here and try and fill Tom's sizable shoes, Mayor and council members. Again, my name is Tom Henley. I've been with Xcel Energy for about 5.5 years. I've been a member of the Media Relations Department, so I've had a fairly large bullseye on my chest for a number of years, and hopefully now I'll just have a lot of little small ones working with different outlets like in the governmental agencies like Tom has. I have worked in this position previously in Las Vegas with Nevada Power Company, so I'm not a stranger to some of your needs, but each individual territory and governmental agency is different and has different aspects of what they're looking for out of Xcel Energy. And I hope that we can certainly continue to build and improve upon any relationship that we have, and that I will begin to build a very strong relationship with you. I will leave some of my cards here for you, and feel free to give me a call anytime you have any questions. And if I can't answer your question directly, I'll be happy to try and find the right person for you. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for coming down.
And, Mayor, just to acknowledge Tom Ashburn's work with us, he said 15 years. Charlie Bloston and I and many other people have worked very closely with him. We lived through one of the largest blizzards in recent memory, and I just have to say that, Tom was always very accessible to us. We didn't always sometimes have happy citizens to deal with, but he was always a trooper, always very professional with us. I think Charlie would second that. So for those of us on a day-to-day basis, I think Tom really represented, Xcel's a big company, regulated by PUC, obviously, gets their share of spears. But in the day-to-day stuff, we just found Tom very professional, a great representative of Xcel, and just a real pleasure to work with. So our appreciation from the staff side. Tom, you bet.
Thank you.
Certainly, Tom, wish you well.
Anyone else? Well, then that brings us to our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are items that can be adopted by a simple motion. They're generally non-controversial. Any council person can pull any item they desire off the consent agenda. First item, item 7A, is a resolution of the City Council. If you can read that by title, please.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, specifying the location where notices of public meetings are to be posted.
The State Sunshine Act requires many things, but one of the things that it requires is timely notice of meetings that are to take place, and it requires us to declare at the first of the year where we are going to post that notice. This resolution designates the posting place for the notice that we have to post for any meetings that we are going to have. Item 7B is also a resolution, if you can read that by title, please.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, establishing contractor license fees.
This resolution establishes contractor license fees. We first started licensing contractors in 1985. The fees range from $50 for plumbers or $50 to $150 from Class D to Class A types of licenses. Item 7C is a motion to approve an exhibit for a professional services contractor for Judge Steve Katzman. On the 21st of December, the council approved a contract with the judge and changes for a contract with the presiding judge. It came to the council's attention that there was a misunderstanding about the hourly rate for Judge Katzman and his contract. This motion approves a change and corrects that problem. Next is, that's it, isn't it? That's it.
Mr. President, I move for the adoption of consent agenda items A, B, and C.
Second.
Okay, Jim and Phil for consent agenda. Discussion? Council ready to vote?
Vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
All right. That brings us to item 8A, which is an ordinance on second reading regarding fees charged.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending Section 8-1-1 and 8-1-2 of the City Code pertaining to street cut permits, repair, and design.
Council, one of our senior engineers, Bert Whitaker, is going to present this item to you tonight. Bert.
Good evening, City Council.
Speak into the microphone, Bert.
Good evening. And, tonight, the Engineering Division is presenting an ordinance and a resolution relating to a modification in fees charged by the city for excavations done within the public right-of-way. For the past 41 years, since 1969, that's 1 year longer than since Charlie's been with the city of Littleton.
And that's a long time, Bert.
For the past 41 years, those fees have not been changed. I won't say whether Charlie, but the street cut fees have not been changed for 41 years, and we're recommending a significant update to bring the street cut fees and regulations in line with the actual costs expended by city staff to manage this program. We've researched what other cities and counties charge for this activity to make sure our proposed fees are consistent and reasonable. It's also recommended by city staff to make a change in the ordinance so that future changes for street cut fees can be accomplished by a resolution rather than an ordinance. Most street excavations are done by the major utility companies, Denver Water, Xcel Energy, and Quest, and a few by the sanitation districts that have facilities in the city streets. Private contractors also do a large number of street cuts within the city to install new sewer lines or repair sewer lines and water lines for residents. And on rare occasions, we do have a property owner, a resident that wants to do their own repair of a sewer or water line and wants to do their own repair rather than have a contractor do it, just on very rare occasions. And the revised ordinance allows for this resident to do the repair and permits the resident to provide a cash escrow deposit rather than a bond in order to obtain a permit to excavate in the street right-of-way or in an alley in the city. We feel the proposed fees will permit the city to fully recover our expenses for managing the street cut program and provide for better flexibility to modify the fees in the future. We can answer any questions you may have at this time.
Questions for Bert?
And just for the record, what you said actually relates to two items
Yes.
on our agenda for those people who are listening, so we get to the other one in a minute.
Yeah, the main purpose of the ordinance is to take out the fees that are specified in the ordinance and have them set by resolution, which is the next item that we have. It also changes the bonding amount from $200 to a sliding scale that's based on a schedule that the city sets up so that the bond actually reflects the risk that the city has if the street isn't repaired correctly. But the next item, as you pointed out, Dr. Cole, sets the actual new street cut fees. This is a public hearing. If anybody wants to come down and address us about this issue, now would be the time to do so. Okay. Thank you, Bert. Appreciate it. Motion, please.
To move things along, Mr. Chairman, I move the public hearing be closed and the ordinance amending the portion of the city code pertaining to permits for excavating within city streets, alleys, sidewalks, or public places in Littleton be approved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance amending the portion of the city code pertaining to permits for excavation within city streets, alleys, sidewalks, and public places. Discussion? That's quick. Council ready to vote then?
Vote is 7 in favor. The ordinance is approved.
Now, that brings us to the resolution that Peggy was talking about.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, establishing street cut permit fees.
And this resolution changes the amounts from when Charlie was a pup to new amounts.
Bert can respond to that also.
Okay. I'm assuming you're responding to the amounts, not when Charlie was a pup.
And your question is the new resolution sets the amount. We have a fee schedule that specifies the amount. We have a formula in the computer that determines the amount.
And Bert, just to put a scale on this, if there was a repair that needed to be made, typical repair maybe by either Excel or possibly water that might need to be done. Not water, because we take care of some of that ourselves. What might be the fee level? Historically, it was $200, and now it would be something that might be a little bit different than that.
Okay. We have an arrangement. If there's an emergency repair, of course, Excel, Denver Water, or Quest will go in and do it immediately, and they notify us. They call for utility locates, and then they follow up and obtain a permit. Just to give you an example of, you may remember Denver Water did that work on Ridge Road where they installed a new water line last summer and fall. The permit fee under our current ordinance was approximately $470, about $470 for about 8/10 of a mile of excavation in the right-of-way, and that to cover our preparing the permit and then quite a bit of inspection time to go out and inspect it. And that approximately doubles. It's a little over $800 if they were to obtain that permit under the new fee schedule. So it's not putting an undue hardship on them, but it does allow for additional time for situations like that where they need to do a repair or replacement of their facilities.
And just to make sure my understanding is clear, the formula is really designed to permit us to, or to allow for us to have a cost recovery.
We're attempting to recover some of these staff's costs. Right now, it costs roughly for the most simple street cut permit. We spend just over $50 of staff time just preparing the permit, and then the inspector's time that goes out makes a number of inspections during the work, and then they inspect when the repair is done, and they go back a year later to re-inspect. So we're recovering some of that staff time, and there's also the overhead of the city that's not included in that, the $50 for a permit for our IS department and our vehicles and uniforms and so on, the additional costs. But just the direct cost for a most simple 4x4 cut to repair a water line, it's about $50 of staff time just to monitor that one cut.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Bruce?
Just one quick question. On your schedule, you've got other, if none of these categories apply, and then the charge is calculated on a case-by-case basis. Is there such a thing? I mean, have you guys ever run into anything that doesn't fit into one of these categories out of curiosity?
That's kind of a catch-all. If something came up that
we never thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've not really ever bumped into anything like that.
I don't know that we ever used that, but it would give staff,
Okay.
if we determined that there was going to be something that would have a major impact on the city that, couldn't be covered by the normal, it was going to maybe take a lot more staff time. That's kind of
Just to give us the ability, some unforeseen circumstance.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just was curious if there was any, if you had any experience with it. So, but that, I understand.
Right, we haven't had that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Before we have a motion, though, I understand you invested a considerable amount of time in bringing this information to us, doing research, and I want to say how much I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bert. Appreciate it. Okay, you need a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move the resolution establishing the fees for street cut permits be approved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution establishing the street cut fees. Peggy?
Yes, I move to amend the resolution to strike the second whereas.
I'll second that. So the motion is to remove the second whereas, which says the city council has determined that all fees and charges imposed by the city shall reflect the actual costs and expenses incurred by the city. Would be removed. Discussion?
And I'd comment to explain, the council has not really taken a formal position on that. So while we seem to be heading in that direction, we have not formally determined that.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Bruce, sorry, me. Bruce did the first one.
The third Bruce.
Did. Yeah. Okay. Ready to vote on the amendment. The amendment strikes the second whereas. Council ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor with Councilman Stallman voting no. The amendment is approved.
Okay. That brings us to the amended main motion, which is to approve the resolution minus the second whereas, which establishes the new cut fees. Discussion on that. Ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor with Councilman Clark voting no. The resolution is approved.
Friday. Thank you, Bert. Appreciate it. That brings us to reports. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. First thing tonight, I wanted to just bring council up to speed on a couple of personnel matters. We will be initiating this week a search for a new permanent community development director. That, as you know, that position has been an acting position for a little over 2.5 years. In talking about it with Phil and Eric Von Savage and our personnel people, we felt like it was in the best interest of the department and the city to move ahead. So we will be recruiting for that, and we'll be putting together a process for that. And we have a target date to fill that position in a permanent level by April 1. Secondly, as you know, Phyllis Larson is our acting library director. I think most of you know that we are doing an efficiency study at the library. Again, Phil Cortese and his team are heading that up. We anticipate doing an assessment. As part of that efficiency study, we anticipate doing an assessment of the management structure of the museum, of the library. And so when we talk about the council workshop tonight, it may be a topic for your workshop, but we will probably bring in a proposal, perhaps some suggestions to you about streamlining the management structure of the library. So I wanted to let you know those items are underway. Then secondly is we wanted to get some feedback tonight, assistance from you in preparing for the council workshop in February. Met with Chris Gibbons today and Phil, and went back and looked at our notes from your December 14th study session, in which our notes, our direction was that economic development was supposed to be kind of the marquee item, but we need some clarification on specifically what the scope of that agenda should be. I'll just give you a little historic context. The 2007 council workshop, for which only 2 of you were here, Councilman Clark and Mr. Taylor, the economic development was also the marquee topic there, in fact, titled Economic Development is Economic Gardening Enough, and then a whole kinds of issue. I think we spent about 4 hours on it. We could either send this out to you to give you a little historical context, or if you've got specific, I know Chris, we've talked about the shopping centers. Chris Gibbons laid out in his memo that he discussed with you on December 14th, range of tools that the city may have. At your workshop last year, you talked about marketing, some branding issues. So right now, we need a little bit of feedback from you in terms of what are the specific materials and work product that we should be working on to put together for your workshop in February. So
don't all speak at once.
I think it would be good I'd like to see that report.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I would say at this point, maybe we can spend a week thinking about it, and maybe, I don't know, next Tuesday, if we have
or maybe
an extra 15 minutes or something.
Or maybe the council meeting of the, let's cut it 18th.
But that
You'd have
would be
time at
enough.
the council meeting on the 18th, yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, for me, I'd just like to put a little bit of think time on
Sure.
it and look
Well,
at
that's why I wanted to bring it up tonight, so kind of get the wheels turning a little bit, because we need a little, if we're going to put together some work product for you, we need to kind of get going on it. So the other question I had for you is, as a result of the December 14th session, in your December 16th council packets, we had put together a draft, what we called outreach letter to the shopping center owners. And we had anticipated Marlene and said if you had any suggestions, please get back to her. So far, she said she's not had any suggestions, so I didn't know is council okay for us to go ahead and ink that and get it sent out?
Yeah, I think the only comment, and I can't remember how I shared it in passing to that, Jim, was to follow up from the letter to make a phone call. There's the letter makes the excuse or gives the excuse for a follow-up conversation
Okay.
because sometimes folks will hesitate necessarily, and we wanted to, or at least my thought was to raise it enough that we would get some response as well as
Okay.
but I thought it did a fair job of representing some of the good things that are happening and asking them for, what their thoughts are, but certainly a follow-up phone call would be
Sure.
the part I would suggest.
Easy to do. So
If I remember right, there's 15 shopping centers in Littleton, something around that.
I think that's going to be close. I don't know exactly, but the BIA has a list of them, but that's probably a good stab at it.
I wasn't here at the December 14th meeting, so I'm a little hesitant to comment too much, but I did see the letter. I guess my preference, I would rather have Chris call and ask. The letter seemed a little, it was very nicely worded, but I think it'd be better to have a personal call from Chris, since there's a fairly small number of those shopping centers. I think that may go over better than sending out a letter that basically says, hey, send us your plans for what you're going to do. He can get a feel from them if they're have any ideas at all, any direction that they're going down, that kind of stuff.
I guess the other side to that is if they get a letter, it gives them an opportunity to think about it, because I do agree with what Phil said, a follow-up phone call after the letter goes out and have that conversation, but allowing them to see what we're looking for in a letter prior to a cold phone call seems to me like would be a good plan to follow.
Okay, I defer to you guys because
Well, I think the purpose of the letter, Doug, and some of what our discussion is to a lot of the management organizations for these are not necessarily what we would call in the neighborhood. The management group could be someplace in California, and it was an opportunity to at least enumerate a number of things that are positive that have been happening in the city, things that you wouldn't typically mention in a phone call, but just to put some context there to say, unlike some other geographies that might exist in being more challenged would probably be a safe way to say it, that there have been a number of good things that have been happening in Littleton, and to put some context there, and to say, and then ask them for that, but then follow it up with a phone call, because it's very easy for them to read the letter and kind of tuck it into the procrastination mode of not necessarily responding directly and allowing for the phone call that I think is the, what you're looking at. And without doing the letter, it's not necessarily something that you're going to enumerate, here's the 10 things that have been happening well in the city in a phone call.
And some of these shopping centers are not owned individually. They're owned by large groups of funds. And so the letter might go to like an executive director of a fund, but in order for him to be able to respond properly, he's got to get directions from other people who are participants in the fund. So it's not sometimes just as easy making a single phone call. There's a bunch of people involved in lots of these cases.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead, we'll get the letter out, and then I'll work with, Chris can work with his team. We'll get the letter out, maybe give it a week, 10 days out there to hit mailboxes, and then we'll follow up with some phone calls. And then I'll put copies of this 2007 workshop in your packets this week. If you have questions, but it'll give you time to kind of think about it a little bit. Maybe we can have general discussion at the 18th council meeting, and you'll have time to kind of put your ideas together. Okay? Does it work okay?
I'd suggest that we might have brief comments maybe next Tuesday if we have any immediate feedback.
Oh, sure. We have you take any feedback.
And then we can pursue it more.
All right. And then we'll need to kind of flesh out with you, once we've got economic development kind of scoped out, we'll put together a draft agenda for you to see what you want to use the rest of your day for. As I said, we'll put together a draft agenda with some time slots, and then maybe we can get some feedback on the 18th on that too, and that'll give staff some lead time to start preparing for your workshop in February. All right.
Jim, there's a few years ago where Chris did a presentation at one of the workshops about the different levels of marketing and how economic wealth is generated. I'm thinking it's a 2005 workshop. Why don't you send that out with the 2007
I'll go back. We
also.
just specifically, Phil had reminded me of this 2007.
Yeah.
But we'll check. We've got copies of all the workshop reports, so I kind of remember the one you were talking about. So we'll see what we've done, so it gives you a historical kind of overview of what past councils have talked about, and we'll pull that together if we can find those.
Okay.
Okay?
I also
Yes, ma'am.
have a question of whether or not we think that will really, not that we have to meet 12 hours, but if we might have time for a second major topic or not quite so major topic. I'm particularly am thinking of the financial policies that the audit committee touched on at their meeting before, some of the policies shortly before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those policies, has to do with deal with reserve funds, different kinds of reserves or whatever, but also the issue that we had before us tonight, and we had last time, with the various fees and charges. So a financial policy might look at, do we have an absolute policy about recovering fees and charges, our costs through fees and charges, or do we have maybe a multi-factor decision on whether to do that. So that might be something worthy of discussion there within the context of overall financial policies.
I think my understanding is, I wasn't at your last audit committee meeting, but that there was quite a bit of discussion about reserve policies, and I think there's supposed to be a follow-up scoping, I think, with Councilman Cernanek and Mr. Cortese and Mr. Von Savage specifically on the health insurance. But then I guess once we get a scope on how in-depth and how broad you want your economic development piece to be, then I think we'll start to see what kind of time chunks, once you establish, well, 2 hours is going to be enough for this, or we think we'll get this done, then we can start to talk about what you'd like to put in those other time slots for the rest of the day. So maybe we can address some of that on the 18th, too.
I'd like to suggest one thing. We've had revisions to the PDO process on the study session topic list for maybe a decade now. I would like to suggest that might be an appropriate topic to talk about, because I view the current PDO process as actually wrapping up two fairly different things. One is a shift in density, an overlay, which was what PDO was originally intended for. And the second one is it's become kind of a filter or an approval process for properties in the TIZ.
Yes, sir.
Anything that they do that's over, I think, 500 square feet triggers a PDO, which is really a mechanism used for a review that actually doesn't have much to do with density overlay. And I think putting both of those together in the same process ends up being kind of a messy process. So I'd like to look at separating those two processes into two different approval mechanisms. And perhaps that would be a good thing to discuss at the workshop, because my guess is that will then, if the council wants to go ahead with that, that would then manifest itself as going back to Planning Commission for some work on the two different processes, and then maybe one or two study sessions for us. And traditionally, our workshop is aimed at discussing topics that are goals for the council for the rest of the year. And then after we get done discussing those topics, then we go through at the end of the workshop and materialize those as study session topics, and then prioritize those, and then that sets basically our work agenda for the rest of the year. So I guess I'm suggesting that the study session topics that we pick really should be related to what we want to accomplish for the following year, because those, at least in the past, will then pop out as, like I said, those study session topics. So, okay.
My thought, at least if we would go through the PDO process, is might be the resurfacing of what we didn't cover in last year's workshop, but Janet worked so hard to collect, was the flow charts.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be part of that segment.
All right, that's all I have tonight, Council.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
Jose?
Nothing tonight. Can't talk.
Bruce?
Okay. Well, just as the normal, ever popular, often imitated, never duplicated merchant plug of the week, but this is more of a probably a public service announcement. So, in as much as the holidays have now departed, and in their wake have left us all a bit, potentially with the exception of Councilmember Taylor, who's always and notoriously svelte, the opportunity to perhaps shed unwanted fruitcake, if you will. I thought it would be appropriate to identify and Charlie, you need to keep me honest on this, the fitness centers that exist in and around Littleton, And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, which include of course, the Buck Center operated by South Suburban, 24-hour fitness over at River Point. There's level 7, which is a small gymnasium in the old Smartco shopping center on the west side of that I believe we did a grand opening for a couple years ago. And then the YMCA on Dry Creek at Broadway at Dry Creek. The downside, of course, to the YMCA is it's right next door to Marie Callender's, and they, of course, have a pie sale going on all the time. So you have to, walk on by, as it were. But I can't think of any others. You have one more?
South Denver Heart Center has a fitness.
Okay, South Denver Heart Center in South Park. So that would be.
There's something in the.
Is there LA Boxing is in.
LA Boxing, and
okay.
then there's something in the Broadridge Center. No, it's something. It's called.
Well, yeah, there's more. There's a yoga at Woodlawn, a new yoga at Woodlawn as
martial
well.
Arts, and then there's the martial arts. I don't know if you want to count them or not.
So there you go. I mean, it's you can trip
you can
over
stay
these
fit
places.
in Littleton.
Or opportunities to renege on your
Plus hundreds of miles of trails.
Yeah.
But exactly, as we saw tonight. So there you go. There's just every opportunity and no excuse for all of us collectively to get off the couch and get on the treadmill.
Thank you for making me feel guilty.
Hey, I'm right there with you. That's all I've got.
I have some really good news. Had a museum board meeting last night, and they have broken all attendance records. Their increase over the year prior is 13,101 people, which shatters their previous record in 2007. So they, in a year where they thought they might suffer a bit, particularly with school groups and stuff like that, they've actually had a stellar year. And the current exhibit there, Pivotal Points, Exploring and Mapping the Trans-Mississippi West, has been documented. They've done it's kind of a Channel 8 video show / documentary that will be running on Channel 8 soon, and it's about 15 to 20 minutes, and it's incredibly well done, and it's very, very interesting. So you can get the Channel 8 schedule on the Littleton Gov website and see when that's going to be showing. But it's an incredible exhibit, so I encourage people to get out there and see that. There you go.
Jim?
Just in case anybody happens to need it, between Christmas and the New Year's, I got certified to do CPR and AED. So just in case anybody needs it, just need to know where the AED is located in this building. Second thing is I got a catalog for Bass Pro Shops. If anybody's a fisherman, I'll be glad to give it to them, because I gave away my fishing pole to my youngest son years ago, and I no longer even have a fishing pole. So if somebody'd like to have this, you can have it.
Joe's
Pass it
raising
down
his
to Joe.
hand.
If Joe doesn't use it, he's got a friend who would. And that's all I've got.
Bill?
Just a couple things to share. Kevin Shand, who heads up a scouting process for the state of Colorado with regard to folks doing commercials or television shows, met with the staff the Wednesday between Christmas and New Year's, so that was just last week. Secondly, for an open invitation to any other council members that might want to join in a health reserve discussion with the staff on Friday. It will be at 2 o'clock in the city manager's conference room. You're welcome to join us for a very stimulating conversation on that. And most of the organizations for which I have a liaison took the holidays off, but there will be a very interesting Legislative Action Committee meeting at the South Metro Denver Chamber next Tuesday morning. The guest speaker is going to be Frank McNulty, who is from the neighborhood, Highlands Ranch, and is the head of the House for this next session coming up. And other than that, Happy New Year to everyone.
Peggy.
I have two things. First, a question for Charlie, since he's still here. Do we have an update on the repair of the fountain in the Rose Memorial Garden? I thought we were...
The repair of what?
The fountain in the Rose Garden?
The fountain actually works. The repair of the structure
Right, that's what
is scheduled for this year. We have a contract with a company out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and they did the assessment, which is a part of the overall repair of the facility, and we talked to them about doing it as soon as weather permits. They will be on site, and they do the work themselves. So it's been contracted. The money that you authorized to do this last year, which was $25,000, has been encumbered and contracted to this company.
Okay. That's, I think, the company that you had told us about when we approved the funding.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then I would like to request a study session item on a major study session item on the rental housing inspection program. After we had the District 2 meeting, when we had the PowerPoint slide showing some of the things that they had discovered in those inspections, and Mr. Thielen and I had a little email exchange about getting more information. And part of what he said when we talked about having a study session for this, that he said we can give you a more accurate accounting of what we are running into and the moral issues and not just the legal issues involved, because there's some legal issues that I had asked, is there anything that council might want to change in code or fees or whatever to encourage owners not to let their properties get as bad as some of what we saw in that presentation. And so I'd like us to do that sooner rather than letting that keep slide down the study session list. I had initially thought maybe something like that at a workshop, but I want the public to be able to see what's presented, since the public did see, well, at least can see in the council the district meeting, they can see what was presented there. What I did find out in talking to Mr. Thielen is that most of the really bad stuff that we saw was really one unit, one apartment. It wasn't like bunches of different apartments, but some of that was so horrendous. I think we need to have a better incentive for people not to let their properties get that bad. So.
Okay. Is the rest of the council in?
I don't really, I'm not entirely clear on what Peggy wants to do with that. But I'm not, I guess it seems to me as though the code enforcement is out there doing what they need to do, and if you've got a problem landlord, you're going to have a problem landlord, and we do have laws to enforce that. We've got an aggressive program going on, and I just don't know. I think it's a fine line between how much we want to get involved in that as a council versus letting the department do their work, and if they feel like they don't have the ammunition they need or they feel like they need some additional support, then they know how to come and get that. So I'm not sure. I guess I'm not really tracking exactly, Peggy, if I'm missing the point, but if that is the point, then I don't think I wouldn't support doing it, having it on a study session at this point.
Well, the idea would be to be having the dialogue, which he thought would be very, very helpful. I mean, he's the one that suggested that we could meet to talk about this more so the council could learn more. And I think, although Jim, maybe you know, I think he supports doing something a little different with the fee schedule on that.
I need to go back and review. I saw it because he copied me and you copied me on all the emails, and I thought I reflected that Mr. Thielen was not sure it rose to the level of a study session, but maybe.
Well, I can let you talk to him and then give us some.
There are things. I mean, we do get there are issues that the city attorney can certainly advise you on in terms of right of entry and some of the procedural kinds of things. I mean, it's not just a matter of, we can't just go and say ding dong, let us in. And so, but what if you want me to talk to Mr. Thielen and Mr. Swain and review that, because I thought I got the impression that he was saying there are some things here to tweak it, but I didn't think he thought it needed to come to a study session.
Okay, I talked with him on the phone too, but
Okay.
maybe I'm hearing something different.
Well, maybe I could revisit that, and given some of the concerns that Debbie's brought up. Any other council members have questions about this?
Just, I can appreciate some response or certainly what we saw at the District 2 presentation that evening were disconcerting, to say the least. I think before I might suggest or support a study session would be to hear a framing of what the question would be.
Sure.
Rather than
we come to you if there's something specific. I think Peggy is saying, is there something else, council, in terms of policy, legislation, are there other things other tools that code enforcement needs in the toolbox? And maybe that's what we need to do is I need to sit down with the team and refresh that series of emails between Mr. Thielen and Peggy and find out if that's in fact what he was suggesting, because I think that then focuses the issue more if we're coming to you and saying, here are some things, council, that we need from you, because that's really what you're interested in.
Because I'm sure, just my own thought is where the moral question comes in is, if a unit is condemned for habitation, now where does that family otherwise reside? Creates sometimes a dilemma.
It does, and so if that's okay with council, let me rescope this.
Okay.
And then report back to you if we still think it maybe should come forward to you. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. What distressed me with the pictures that we saw, and in the talking with Mr. Thielen otherwise, is how a unit gets to be as bad as some of those pictures showed. I mean, a tremendous danger to life with the exposed electric wires, various kinds of things.
Right.
And so our housing inspection program now is certainly helping with that. But after they've been inspected,
your question is, are there things legislatively that you could do that would mitigate that, or are there just going to be some circumstances where perhaps people that are in a certain emotional, physical state, obviously there's different levels of drug use, alcohol abuse, those kinds of things that are very difficult to control, and then what is the specific responsibility of the landlord to be knowledgeable about those. So I hear exactly the question.
I'm comfortable with your talking to him to see what, if anything, then he might want us to do in a study session.
I've got it.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Jim, on the January 18th, our study session, I think we're doing the water contract.
January 25th. Yes. January 18th is a council meeting.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
The 25th is the special meeting for the Denver water contract.
And is that going to take how long? Do we have anything else scheduled on that meeting?
No, sir. That's the only topic we have scheduled for that night so far.
Okay. I guess I'd like to get our lighting ordinance moving. It's the dark time of the year. We've been talking about doing something like with that. I'd like to see the lighting ordinance proposed changes come back to us at a study session on the 25th.
Okay.
This is the second topic.
In fact, I had a conversation with Mr. Swain about that today, and I think there are specific amendments that they are planning on proposing, so you're saying you'd like to see those?
Yeah.
Okay. I was saying,
I think they were going to do about a 45-minute presentation, and then I guess it would depend on the Q&A time.
Okay. So we could probably fit them both on there.
Okay.
Bruce?
That sort of jogged a question I thought of earlier on, since the fellows from Excel were here, is there any status update in terms of activities with the streetlights and trying to get them to allow us to maintain them?
We talked about that today. I'll let Charlie Bloston report to you on that.
There's a coalition of about a dozen cities that are discussing with Excel Energy how to provide power-only cost to streetlights for cities that want to own and maintain their own lights, but get their energy only from Excel. And Excel has been resisting that. And so it went to the PUC. The PUC said, go work it out. And that series of conversations has been going on now for about 9 months. And it's still going on. And so there has been no resolution, although there have been some discussions about how to make it happen.
Okay.
But it has not been concluded yet.
Is there any expectation as far as a timeline is concerned?
Well, I've seen some progress recently. Suzanne and Kirsten and I have been monitoring it rather than being active participants. And I would say that by summertime, it'll either be resolved or done away with and dropped. But I'm confident at this point that the attorneys working on it and the cities are making progress with Excel.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Jim, Dr. Cog.
I have no Dr. Cog report tonight.
Oh, well, in that case, if there's no other business to come before us, we are adjourned.